Well, cheers, Josh.
Cheers. Thanks for
Good to have you here.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. So for starters, how's the body feeling?
Yeah, feeling
Start
good.
of the season?
Yeah, really good. So I had a bit of an interrupted pre-season. I had shoulder surgery and slowly built my way back. But yeah, we had a couple of weeks off. I got my feet started to get a bit sore. Just I think we were rushing too far back into it, and had to have a few weeks off. So that pushed us back. So I missed round one, but yeah, I was able to come back last week, and yeah, we've been 2 games in now. So it's season's underway, and yeah, feeling pretty good. So.
Looking good. How's the shoulder feeling?
Yeah, it's good. Yeah, it's good. I had to have a rotator cuff repair. So we had a few injuries last year. I broke, I suppose, the top of my fibula in a game halfway through last year. And we come back for a few games, but probably a bit too early. And it still wasn't healing, the crack. So we held off, and I come back for the last bit of the finals, so the last 3 games. And yeah, the first game back, I tore my rotator cuff, which was great. So, but it's something that there's 9 of them. So if you tear one, you still got the other 8 holding it in. So I was able to get through 2 more games, which was the prelim and the grand final. So which
awesome.
Was pretty cool.
Who was your surgeon?
Who was my surgeon? Peter Campbell does the shoulder.
He did my shoulder.
Yeah.
I got that done mid last year.
Did you? Yeah, he's pretty good. We've used him, so that's my 4th shoulder now. So 2 on each side. So evened it out.
Okay. Yeah, I've had both of mine done as well. It's a trip, huh?
It is.
But you've had a few ops now, haven't you?
I have. Yeah, that was my 15th.
Wow.
So it's been 14 years of football, and I've had 15 surgeries. So.
I thought I had a few, but you've had a few more.
I haven't beaten Bo Waters had 22.
Yeah,
career, which is a fair amount.
Wow.
So.
Do you guys keep a bit of a tally?
No, well, just when he was he was in and out all the time with certain little things, and you start to add them all up, and you realise you've done 15. It's hopefully I'm still walking around after about 50 years old.
Yes,
so there we go.
I hope so too. Yeah, I want to talk a little bit about that. I've been meeting up with quite a few elite athletes and just discussing that common predicament of the wear and tear on the body, but also the potential kind of overwhelm on the mind, like the kind of predicament of a lot of the mental illness issues, and not to mention how much the body gets pushed. Is there much these days like awareness around that conversation of like integrating after your career and taking care of the mind, taking care of the body, and so forth?
A little bit. It's getting more now.
Right.
Yeah, it's starting to. I suppose back in the day it wasn't really thought of, but we're having a lot of guys, especially in the AFL world, who 3-4 years later are having to have surgery or have things fixed up and cleaned up just to run around with the kids and stuff like that. So there's a lot more, I think, awareness and thought gone into, I suppose, post-career, and the AFL do it pretty good with the AFL Players Association. There's funding that's put away each year, which goes towards helping people who have been in the AFL system who need it. And that's all, not just surgeries or physio. That's psychs and everything like that. So it's getting a lot better.
Yeah.
And we are talking about it a lot more. And it's probably more just the older ones. So, I've only got a few more years left, so I'll start to bring it up a bit more, because you start to worry a fair bit. But there's a lot of things in place that put you there, but a lot of it's on your own back as well, I think. I think most guys don't know when they finish. That just all of a sudden the career's gone, and then you're in this little bit of a void where you got to transition into the normal work life, and it can be pretty tough. So we're trying to do a lot of preparation with the older blokes now, just to help transition, I suppose, not only physically but mentally into normal work and normal day things. We're lucky enough to be able to have a job where we love it so much, and you do it for 2, 3, 14 years, 15 years, and then that gets cut off. It's pretty hard trying to find something else.
For sure.
But a lot more preparations going into that to help guys. Yeah, definitely.
And it's an understandable predicament. I mean, you've been identified with that role, that position, or that number for however many years since you can probably remember.
Yeah.
And the success, the highs, the lows, like it's your life.
Yeah.
And if you haven't had either the conversations, the support, or just your own initiative to connect with aspects of yourself beyond that, it would be a fucking crazy roller coaster ride when it finally comes to that time, either retirement or early retirement or injury. Like, no wonder why there's all these issues of addiction and depression and just identity crisis, because if you haven't prepared for that consciously, it would be a fucking trip, huh?
Yeah, well, that's something we're trying to address now. We actually had Sam Butler, a past player, come in and just have a bit of a tour. He actually went around to a lot of the retirees over the last 5 years and kind of just asked them, what was missing, what did you like about the transition, what didn't you like, and it was quite funny. A lot of the times when the retirement speeches, Butsy said, he goes, one thing you always say is you got to miss your mates, you got to miss being your own mates, but he goes, that's not really what it is, because you generally just see your mates anyway. So he kind of started to talk about how we're all adrenaline junkies, and if we're not adrenaline junkies, we become adrenaline junkies because we're in these high stress, high pressure, I suppose, job where week to week performance is a big thing. So you're trying to manage your body, you're trying to be mentally right, you're trying to win games, which is what it's all about. And then you've got all the outside influences of media. If you're not performing, if you are performing, people put you up here, people drop your deck down here. And so he's saying that we end up being these adrenaline junkies. So we love these high pressure situations because that's all we've known. And then we come out and we try and find a job. We think corporate, we think maybe go and sit behind a desk or we're doing something. And he reckons that we get bored. Which is not to say that they're boring jobs. It's just that we've been, I think, in this bubble of high stress that we actually really like it. I think of it now, I don't like it. It's, the roller coaster of football is something that I will not miss one bit. But I suppose a lot of guys find it hard in that situation, trying to find a passionate job that they love that puts them, I suppose, in that situation that, tries to get the best out of them. Yes. And so that was quite interesting to hear because I've never heard that before.
Right.
And, that was a lot of consensus from a lot of the older guys that they missed.
Makes sense. What are the aspects you won't miss?
Won't miss?
Yeah. All of it?
Yeah, a lot. I think the roller coaster is a big thing. The ups and downs, the scrutiny, I suppose just everyone has their opinion, everyone has their say, not only on social media, but, people can just come and tell you how they feel about you straight up. And I think the biggest thing that's helped a lot of guys is we try and preach that footy doesn't define you as a person. Like, you play football, but it doesn't define you as a person. And I reckon once you settle in with that concept, I think you can handle it a bit better. Because if you're playing bad, it doesn't mean you're a bad person. Right. So, which I think everyone gets caught up with. And that's where some young kids who just think, footy's everything, this is their life, and they're playing bad, they're getting scrutiny from media, they're getting scrutiny from parents, from friends, everyone going, oh, why can't you get a kick? And, a lot of guys, they bring it back on themselves thinking, what's wrong with me? You know what I mean? Rather than, it's just football. It's just a game that you need to upskill yourself, and as long as you get the best out of yourself, then that's all should matter. But yeah, because we are scrutinised a fair bit, I think people lose that concept and they define themselves by their football rather than them as a person.
It's huge, and it's so good that you have. Do you still float regularly, like before a game and stuff like that?
Yeah,
day before.
So I'm always usually the day before.
Yeah.
Depending on, I've started to. Night games, I actually like floating during the day now. So so on the weekend we had 7:25 games. So I headed into the float at about 12:30, and it's good. It breaks up your day as well. Yeah. And sometimes if you don't really get a good sleep that night as well, you can. It really helps out. So, but I've found that that's been working pretty good. A lot of guys I think when they float, they get really chilled and they just want to zone out and they can't do any training or work.
Right.
But, I get a bit of the opposite, which is
interesting.
Works well.
Yeah, I can understand that. You could say resistance to it because you get into a super chilled out state. Yeah. Would you have the drive, the determination, what it takes to like perform on the field? And I can see for some they wouldn't. It would take that adrenaline away or something like that. But if you're truly in that optimum like flow state, you could say that's what you want. You want your mind to be quiet. You want your body to be relaxed.
Yeah.
But if you're not used to that, if you're used to the more like sympathetic state, the kind of fight or flight, just adrenaline high, it would feel strange.
Yeah, and so early on when I first started floating, was that night, because I just your best sleep ever, and you have that state for a couple of days, and it was feeling really good. And then I tried a few morning ones, and it just didn't really. I was really lethargic during the day. But then I suppose you start to go in to a float with purpose, which is something that you can't. What I found is you float and you get some really good ones, and then you hit this plateau where it's like you're in there and you just, I'm not getting those same effects. What's going on? Like, what's happening here? Is it no good anymore? And you start to question it a bit. But I started going in with a bit more purpose into a float. So if I've had a bad night's sleep, you know, that I'm going to go float because I just want to have an hour just to zone out and get some sleep. Or recovery-wise, I'm really sore. I want to get in and get that magnesium in the body. Let's get that recovery process going and actually taking pressure off the joints. And that was helping the floats. And then you come in with a bit of even mindfulness or meditation to go, I'm going to be present for this whole hour. And it took a while to get to that point, but, you know, just the practice of it. But having purpose, I think, with the floats really helped with being able to, you know, do them at different times or, you know. So now, like, I come in with the purpose during the day that I'm going to float during the day just to get real present and keep everything still and have that calmness, because I know that will flow into the afternoon, into a game when you're in a high-pressure situation and so many distractions are going on and yet you're still able to be there. So that's probably one thing I learned over the last 4 or 5 years of floating is having a purpose going into it.
That's awesome. And the creative states that you get access to, like it is a very interesting space to be in with that purpose, with that intention. It really, to me, it feels like you tap into a kind of willpower beyond our usual modes of willpower. So you have that kind of seed of intention or that vision, that purpose. It feels way more potent than just stressing about it or worrying about it or thinking about it. It's way more productive, but in our culture, we don't tend to feed that type of willpower, that type of relaxed energy, that relaxed vitality. For many people, it's very foreign.
Yeah, well, I suppose there's so many distractions in the world today, and you've got your phone, you've got internet. I read a stat somewhere about how. So I'm 32. Back when I was young, or back when I was a kid, around 6 or 7. That the information that we got in a year is now accessible to a kid in a week.
Holy shit.
So
it doesn't surprise me.
So you think about being overstimulated, like that just sums it up. So to find those moments of, I suppose, peace and I suppose fighting boredom is the biggest thing. You know, not many people are so overstimulated these days that that boredom comes pretty quick. And I think that's one thing we found with guys with floating is you get in, you get chilled, you got some music, you might zone off, you'll be in a really good state, but then you kind of hit this recharge button and then you're in there and you're going, what do I do now? How long have I got left? And you might have 20 minutes left and you get really bored and agitated and it takes away from that. So that's probably one of the biggest things that floating's helped me with is being able to tackle boredom.
Yes.
Because it is hard to be still. It's hard to think of nothing because you're just so overstimulated these days, which everyone is.
Yeah, it's so good for us to get bored because with just the phone thing alone, apparently like that vicious cycle of constant dopamine hits, serotonin hits, we've never had that before. And so we're getting this constant rush of dopamine, cortisol, serotonin, this roller coaster ride just from our fucking phone. And then it's desensitizing us. So we're not allowing ourselves to get bored. As soon as we get like a little impulse of boredom, we're on the phone, checking something, anything. And so it's desensitizing all these receptor sites and serotonin. And so then, you go to float. Like, fuck, I'm bored, shitless. Like, but it's good to get bored. We need to get bored. And then you spoke of that plateau. that's fine as well. That's another kind of like opportunity for growth, an opportunity to go deeper into that contentment, that calm that is just not available when we're inundated with all this shit.
Yeah.
So it's a real discipline, I think.
Yeah.
A real discipline to value the nothingness.
Yeah.
Because people would be like, oh, why would I pay that, whatever it is, $90 or whatever, to lay there for an hour doing nothing, being bored?
Yeah.
And at first, it just sounds absurd.
Yeah.
But I think it's becoming more and more magnified how necessary it is. Like, we're paying to be bored.
Yeah, I know.
Like,
it
okay,
is.
take the phone away from me, get me in the dark, deprive my senses so I can get bored again and just get back to nothing, back to nothing. And we need to, otherwise we go mad. We go fucking mad.
Yeah. And those times, like, you actually heighten your senses, I think, a lot more because you start to rely on what you're hearing. I know it's dark, but then your senses starting to sharpen up a bit, what you can see or you can smell.
Totally.
Even the feel of being in, like, just having that awareness of what it feels like is something that we miss every day because we just want to be stimulated by whatever it is, the phone, the TV, the just being out. And it's a funny concept because being bored is something we don't want to do, but it's probably the best thing for us sometimes. So.
Yeah, and then there is always like, even if someone is just laying there for the whole hour, bored, thinking, wondering what the hell am I doing? Like, what are the benefits? I just paid $90 for this. Like, what the fuck? Even then, they will have huge benefits when probably it's often delayed when it's like that, like a day later, 2 days later, all of a sudden they feel more peace or equanimity. And it's very interesting that. And we need to be bored to get in touch with that deeper bliss, that deeper calm, which we're just not going to get from sensory stimulation. We're just not going to get it.
No, well, that's it. Yeah. So I suppose that calmness you search for, then you can really try to, I suppose, tap into yourself and actually how you're feeling, what you're seeing, what you're hearing, and I suppose that comes back to that mindfulness of being present of what's going on, and I suppose helping the brain shut down for that little bit, which then it's also training of the brain to be calm, to be present, to notice what's going on, to hear what's happening around you rather than being so distracted by all these other things. And I think one thing for sport, we have so many distractions. When we're on the field, you've got the crowd, you're kind of in yourself, in your head thinking of, oh, that last contest, I missed that kick, I missed that goal, I should have done this, I should have done that. And if you don't give your brain, I suppose, those training patterns to help bring that calmness and stillness and come back to that present moment, then the game goes like that.
Totally.
And it's over and you've missed your opportunities to either help the team or help yourself.
Yeah, so much of it is in the head, if not, I mean, almost most of it.
Yeah.
You can tell when someone is in a clear, calm, focused state. You can tell when something happens, something flips, and you can see it in a team as well, that kind of team cohesion when something flips, some kind of state flips. And it's very interesting to be a part of and to observe as well. And that even that crowd team cohesion, it's a trip. So to be in that clear space, it's invaluable.
Yeah, and we try and preach to our guys to have trigger points to get in, because I think the awareness of knowing that you're not present is probably the first step, because if you don't know you're not present, then how are you going to get out of it? So our guys usually have triggers, and it's funny you talk about those moments where you see an individual elevate or a team elevate, and what's going on, like why have you just gone from being here to there? So everyone has their triggers, and sometimes it could be the crowd, sometimes it could be your own thoughts, sometimes it could be someone's act that they've done, and you go, oh, how good, oh, yep, that's right, and then everyone kicks into gear. So it's hard to pinpoint exactly how to get to that moment, but as long as you're aware and training, I think we do a lot of mindfulness stuff during the week, and that's helped with meetings, I think, as well. Doing a 5-minute mindfulness practice before a meeting, getting everyone clear and present and forgetting about the distractions that of going on of everyday life, and you come into a meeting pretty clear, you draw more in, you absorb more, and you understand more. So that's really helped us over the last 2 years. Yeah.
That's great. And again, with the scrutiny aspect, the newspapers, the media, the crowd opinion, it'll be a lot to juggle. So like it's really refreshing and inspiring to hear that you and the team has these mindfulness practices, because it's no wonder why it's so seductive, so alluring to go into drugs and alcohol and all these other distractions to get out of the mind. It's all an attempt to get out of the mind, get out of the distraction, the public opinion, and to go deeper into that and to delve into the silence whilst floating, or just to really observe it through mindfulness. It's kind of necessary, huh?
Yeah. Well, I think we're wired to be short-sighted, and back in the early days, being short-sighted is how we survived.
Right.
We were always thinking about what's that danger? I've got to get away from that. How do I get my next feed? And we were always just thinking of just bang, 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 and we don't really think too far into the future because you just want to get through to survive. So I think we're wired like that. So a lot of the time when all these things are popping up, we just want to fix it straight away. We don't think of, let's push through a little bit to get better in long term. We just want to fix it right now. So the pressures of, the stress of football, everyday life for people, whatever it is, we turn to, I suppose, alcohol or, drugs or whatever it is, just because we just want to forget. And you forget and you feel good, and then I feel a bit better about the situation, and then next day it comes back again, so you do it again, and it's just a snowball effect. Whereas I think with the mindfulness and the calmness, the stillness we talk about to help, I suppose, clear that worry, that's more long term and helping it with that. But we're so short-sighted, we just want things fixed straight away.
Now, the current Eagles team, it seems like such a strong, beautiful culture right now, and a lot of dads like yourself. You got 2 daughters. It just seems like a really beautiful club now. A real deep connection and a real kind of grounded energy or something like that. It seems different to the past.
Yeah, look, it's I think Adam Simpson's been massive. Our coach has been massive. He's a family man. He's preached family from the start since he first rocked up, and we had a couple guys with kids, but obviously a few more, started to have a few more kids, and then you're always trying to work out the best way for the club to help out with the families, to get the kids to the games and be a bit more of a family club, so to speak. And Simo's been a massive driver of that, and he's got 4 kids or 5. I think he's got 5 kids actually. So he's got a big family. So little things like the first day of school, he lets all the dads come in a bit later to training, or we push training back a bit later just so we can get the kids to school. And little things like that, which they're so minor, but they make a massive difference on, if we start training at 7:30 and we push it back to 9:30, just so we can do that. Like it's better for the family, it's better for, to be able to drop your kid off at school and on their first day and stuff like that. So little things like that have gone a long way. A lot of family time. He lets a lot of guys have, half days off here and just to spend some time with the family, because we're away every second week. So he's really preached that, and I think it's just flowed on to a lot of the guys, and we're pretty close now as a group, and we've been able to stay pretty grounded, I think, purely because of the guys that have come in. I don't know, you talk about the culture and everything, and sometimes it's pretty hard. It's pretty easy to get ahead of yourself because you get pumped up by so many people, media, fans, friends, and coming off the back of a couple of good years. So, but our guys have been able to stay grounded. They're not worried about all that stuff. And I suppose when you've got a good senior group, I think that flows on to the young kids coming through, and they create good habits, and hopefully they flow it on to the next generation of kids, and you have that culture going where, it is that family, I suppose, environment.
And how have you found juggling family life, 2 young kids, wife, and the peaking footy career? How have you found the juggle?
Yeah, well, it's funny when you first start footy, you put so much effort into it, and then you find a partner, and you turns into your wife, and then you put a bit more into that, and it takes away from your football, but you're still trying to balance that. And then when you have kids, your sole focus just goes straight into them. And I reckon sometimes it's a good thing, because you forget about all those distractions and all those little worries that you always had with football, and you kind of work out what you need to do to, I suppose, get the best out of yourself at football, and you're spending more time at home. So, look, it is a bit of a juggle, especially being away every couple of weeks, and we've got a 18-month gap with our two, so it's pretty tough. And all our family's in Geraldton, which is 4.5 hours away, so we don't really have anyone down in Perth, which makes it hard sometimes. But yeah, we've been lucky enough. The last away trip, Lauren's mum comes down, and she's able to spend some time with the kids and help out a bit. So those times make it a bit more easier. But yeah, it is hard, because there's no real guide on parenting. There's so many books and so many different things, but every kid's different, and everyone's different. So it's quite interesting, but it's a lot more challenging than football, I'd say that.
Yeah, I was asking Michael Klim about that. He's got a few kids as well, and we were speaking a similar conversation a few weeks ago, and we were kind of comparing what's the most challenging, his sporting career, or family life, or business. He's quite an entrepreneur now, and he said, without a doubt, family and business way harder than sporting career, because the sporting career, especially if you're doing it single, it's kind of like living an existence like a monk. You're focused on the goal, and you're so focused on it, and you wake up, you eat, you train, you perform, you just do it. You just do it, you do it, you do it. There's not a whole lot of other things to consider. But once you're considering, your kids, your partner, all these other things, what am I going to do post-retirement, livelihood, it's completely different than those kind of younger days of just focusing on the game. Or it was quite interesting getting his response. Business and family was way more challenging.
I know. Well, I think it's the time as well. When you're younger and you've got no responsibilities besides rocking up to training, doing your thing, getting yourself right, and you talk to guys on, what are you doing this afternoon? I might just go lay on the couch, and I'm just thinking, I've got to go home, and two kids are going nuts. One was up all last night, so wife's tired, and one's been up since 5:30, and she's not sleeping during the day. So it's things like that. But yeah, look, it is challenging. Everyone goes through it, but it's well worth it. And I think when you're in that time when it is challenging and hard, you think it's never going to end, but you kind of you take a bit more of a wider perspective. It will end, and they will get older, and it will get easier. But while you're in it, sometimes it's pretty tough.
Yeah, our kids are around the same age, and you're most welcome. You're in the neighborhood. Feel free to drop your kids off here.
I've got that now.
Have a daddy's day. But it must be a trip, like when you've got your local game here in Perth, and I don't know, you've had a sleepless night with the kids or something like that, and you're just trying to fucking focus on the game. Yeah. That must be a trip.
I think you get used to it.
You get used to it.
Yeah, like I said, when you're younger, you have so many things in place. I've got to eat this food, I've got to do this, I do it this time. And I suppose you get a bit more flexible when you get older, because more experiences, you get a bit wiser on how to deal with things. But yeah, the no sleep thing, you kind of just adapt. I reckon, it's funny. When you don't have kids and you don't get 8 hours and you're stressing, I didn't sleep well last night, blah, blah, blah. But when we've got the kids and you get 5 hours sleep, but you end up getting through it. You do get through it. It's not like you just stop and shut down and just lay down the couch. You actually get through it. You kind of adapt in that way. And I suppose floating's helped with that, because I've been able to just go for a float during the day if I've had a bad night before a game. But yeah, I think you just adapt. And those nights where you can just sleep from 9 till 7 in the morning. Yeah, I'd love to have a couple of them one day, but back. I think they're long gone now.
But yeah, again, back to the floating. Like, if you are sleep deprived, I mean, how valuable, because I've definitely found through experience that hour of float, or back in the day when Nick first opened Beyond Rest, I was floating for hours at that stage, but getting in for that hour float. can potentially feel like the equivalent of a full night's sleep.
Yeah.
If you really drop in.
Yeah. Well, I think, a lot of the studies that they've been able to do with floating, and I suppose the state with the nervous system being able to shut down, and I suppose your brain frequencies being able to come down to that theta state, an hour in the tank is sometimes equivalent to 4 hours sleep. So, which is pretty good. So I think in terms of the body getting into that state, is what floating is all about. And sometimes it's hard to do that just sleeping in your bed because you're hot, you're uncomfortable, your kid's screaming, whatever it is. So I suppose floating's ideal for that situation. So it can help you recoup and recharge, not only the next day, but for the following days as well. So
Now, do you supplement your Eagles training with any extra stuff? Do you do any extra kind of research or training? My brother Cam, who's a physio, he's got a physio clinic called Darch Physio. He pointed out that you train with Jake.
Yeah,
you do movement.
Yeah. So it's a bit harder now because I'm down in Freo now, but yeah, living in Wembley, and he was in Aussie Park at the Movement Co. So I met him through the actual Ninja Academy and through one of our physios who started to do, I suppose, just ring work and basic stuff like that. And so I joined with him probably around 2014, 2015. Just in terms of, I just was looking for something different than I suppose the generic, run weights and do all that. And his basic philosophy was obviously from Ido, the Ido Portal method. And I didn't really understand it, didn't really get it. But the one day it clicked for me was, he goes, "Oh, you guys do bench press. That's one of your main things. That's what we do, and that's our max. That's our testing is all about bench press." And he goes, "Show me the action." So I sit down, I went like that. And you're laying down. He goes, "How many times on a football field would you get in that position like this and push someone?" I said, "Oh, probably never, because you're out here, or it's one arm, or it's your elbow." And he goes, "Why wouldn't you train your max testing in those situations rather than just the stock standard bench press?" And that was like a light bulb moment. And then we kind of worked with him about, I suppose, prolonging the career, and had a few injuries and surgeries and stuff like that. So being able to, I suppose, bring movement, flexibility, and then strength back to areas that have been worked on with surgery that I never, thought I'd be able to do. And first shoulder surgery was a ladder J, which is where they kind of really lock your shoulder up. So I had no movement in it, and that's probably one of the main things for me is marking in a game. If I can't get my arm up, then what's the point in playing? So just little things like that have really helped over the last few years, and a lot of the stuff has been flexibility, but it's getting that range of motion to, I suppose, if you are in a situation in the field where you get pushed or shoved and you got the flexibility to get there, but then bringing the strength back into that area so you don't injure yourself. And I've been doing a fair bit of training with Jake, and I haven't been able to do it the last since we moved down because it's a bit hard in timing, but a lot of the stuff he's taught me, you just flow on to the gym and things like that. So yeah, so I haven't done bench press for probably 5 years now.
For real?
3 years now.
Yeah, wow. Yeah. It's revolutionary.
Yeah. So if you got me on the bench press test, I probably wouldn't be that great. But
it makes so much sense, though.
But a lot of the hanging, a lot of the ring stuff, that's really helped with this shoulder surgery, I think, come back as well. And just little exercises which you would never think of just have really helped, I suppose, over the way. And
it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. So we've started to incorporate a little bit of that into the West Coast training now as well, which has been good. It's hard sometimes to break the conventional sports science, and everyone wants data and facts and all that, especially up in, I suppose, the top elite level. So, but we've been able to incorporate a fair few of that, I suppose, that training, which has really helped a lot of the guys with shoulder problems and back problems, even hip and, areas where you're always pulling up tight and sore. And we get physio, we fix it, we play, get physio, fix it, play. But it's a bad cycle, just keeping doing that. So we need to find out how to, one, get the flexibility and strength in that area so we can play and not have to keep getting the physio. So, little things have helped, I suppose.
Are you all doing handstands and shit on the field now?
Yeah. I was trying to get a hand. I couldn't get I can't free handstand yet, but I was, we were doing a fair bit of strength training to do that. But then, I had the shoulder. I had a AC and then a shoulder and put your back. But you build up, and trying to get back to it is always good because it helps with the strength and helps get the shoulder going. But one day, hopefully I can do a freestanding handstand. I think Jake at the moment is doing one-handed ones and stuff like that, so which is pretty cool to see. But the body alignment for me, is way off, just in terms of back, hips and quads, and because we kick and we run and we're all straight line stuff, it's hard to, I suppose, get your body out of that pattern. But one day, when I finish, hopefully I can put a video up one day of me doing a free handstand.
That'd be very impressive. Big bloke like yourself. Yeah, Nick and I were working on that as well. Get the handstands happening again.
It's pretty cool. We've got a few guys at the club who, because we do handstands now at the club, we all try and challenge each other. So, guys like even Gov, who has got the worst shoulder range, he's able to stand up in it. It's not correct. He's pretty much breaking his back while he's up there, but he still can able to hold it for a lot longer than a lot of the others. Chris Maston's one who just practiced handstands, not so much technique, just actually holding himself up there, so he can walk around on his hands and stuff. So little things like that are pretty cool. Make training a bit more enjoyable, and you're still getting strength out of it. It's probably the big thing.
Mm-hmm. Cool. Grand final. Let's talk grand final. I mean, what a game that was last year. Epic. Do you ever watch the last few minutes on replay?
I watched a couple of times,
Oh, God. Intense. Incredible.
In terms of a game, I suppose, to watch, the momentum swings that happened, everyone talks about how it was a great game, and we were lucky enough to come out winners at the end, which was fantastic. But, the momentum swings for them to be 5 goals up, and we chip our way back, and then even that last quarter, they kicked 2 goals in a row, and, it was a cool game to be involved with, and being able to see I suppose the challenges that our guys face and even their guys face, but seeing guys step up when we needed them to step up was something that's in terms of a game aspect I'll never forget. The feeling of winning and everything it's fantastic, but being in that game and seeing guys step up when we needed them to step up was something that I'll never forget. So it was pretty cool.
It was very cool. Now, what's the talk and where are the minds at and the bodies at for this year?
Yeah, so it's it's feeling pretty good at the moment. We had a good win, I suppose, against Collingwood back at the G, and the guys have had a really good pre-season, and it's always the tough one. We won a grand final, and you have less time, I suppose, to prepare because the club give you the time, the 8 weeks off or whatever, and you go all the way deep into the season. So there's always the fitness staff worrying about, our guys fit, have the boys party too hard and just going, oh, how good's this? We won the grand final. Right. Let's just go for it. And we got given 3 weeks over Christmas now, which is part of the AFL agreement. So there's actually less time at the club. So a lot more trust has been put back onto the players, which I think is a good thing. And we come back after the Christmas break, and we had 14 guys run PBs in our 2K time trial. That's like our fitness time trial, which was great to see. So not only have we had less time off and we've come up after a grand final, guys haven't got complacent, and which has been really good. So that's probably the best thing that we've been able to see. And they've had a really good pre-season. We had a few guys injured, not training and stuff, but we've got most of the boys back. We've still got Nick Nat to come back, who's hopefully midway through the year with his knee. But other than that, everyone's in a pretty good space, and it's been a pretty good pre-season. We lost the first game, which was disappointing. But the last 2 have been pretty solid, and got the derby this week. So it's everyone's just in a good stead at the moment. So it's pretty good.
Good. Very exciting. Yeah, very, very exciting. Let's check out your watch. Is that one of your current endeavors?
It's the Uncle Jack watch.
Yeah, show the camera. Show this camera. For those of you that are watching.
Cool, so.
It's a good one. Uncle Jack, check that out.
So it's pretty cool.
Beautiful.
Uncle Jack are, I suppose, a watch company that have been around for a few years, and they're starting to build up. But they've been doing some collabs with, I suppose, some athletes or some people around, and part of the portion, I suppose, when they do the collabs goes towards a charity, which is pretty cool. So they come to us and said they want to do a Josh Kennedy watch, and lucky enough, I've been the ambassador for the MSWA for 7-8 years now. So we're able to raise some money for MSWA. So a portion of all the sales go towards them, and just even having your name on a watch, I think is pretty cool.
Yeah,
so hopefully,
let me have another look.
Being able to pass that down to the grandkids
Looks
and stuff
good.
one day, you know what I mean?
Looks really good.
But yeah, it's a good initiative by Uncle Jack, and they've got a heap of watches that they launch, but they do, selected limited edition stuff like this, and to raise a bit of money for charity always makes it better.
Yeah.
So it's great.
The Josh Kennedy model not sold out yet?
No, I don't know how many they were doing. I can't remember what he said, but yeah, he reckons 95% of the sales are from Perth, so which
Great.
is good. but no, look, it is pretty cool just to, I suppose, have your watch, and I've been able to give a few to family and stuff, and yeah, so little opportunities like that are pretty exciting, and yeah, we'll never forget like little things like that when you finish and stuff.
For sure.
So it's good.
Wonderful. Now, so that support funds are going, a portion of that going to MS.
Yeah, MSWA, which is cool. So a portion of all the sales will go to MSWA, which is great. So once they hit their limited edition stock and finish, we'll be able to hand some money over to them, and yeah, which is great. So MSWA have been pretty close to me for the last 8 years, and been the ambassador for them. And yeah, look, it's a charity that's grown from not much to they're massive now, which is great. So MS, there's no cure, and the biggest thing is funding towards research. And I remember back when I first started, I met the CEO, and I had no idea about MS. I just wanted to be involved with the charity, but I didn't want to kind of go with the one of the big ones that have, they're all out there, and I just wanted something
that aren't actually putting any money into the cause.
Yeah, ones like that. So my manager's wife is an OT for MSWA, so he said, come meet the CEO, Marcus Stafford. And yeah, so I had an interview with him, and learned a bit about what MS was. And I haven't had anyone in my family affected with MS, but I've certainly over the years been able to, I suppose, meet with a lot of people living with MSWA, and to see the support in their high support facilities, like the 24-hour care. What they're putting more and more in WA, which is fantastic. And the money towards research, I think back when I first started, it was $250,000 they put towards research, which was a big amount for a charity. And last year they put 2.5 mil. So
great.
In 7-8 years, they've been able to 10 times what they're doing, which is great. So that their brand's got bigger. We a bit more awareness around what MS is and people living with MS, and MS also branch off to other neurological diseases as well. So it's not just MS. So they're helping people in WA with that, which is great. And yeah, they do the lottery home stuff now, which is a pretty big one, and they do tour. I still haven't won a house yet, but I'll keep buying tickets. But look, it's a fantastic organisation, and I suppose with all the high support facilities with the residents who live in, I've been able to connect with a fair bit over the years and made some really good friends. We've lost a few along the way, but some of my harshest critics are people living with MS.
Is that right?
We've got a lady named
got a bit to say.
We've got a lady named Kath who she's in a wheelchair, and she's had MS for I'm going to say nearly 30, 40 years now, but she's able to, I suppose, control all the stuff with a switch through her mouth, and they've got
say that again,
like a switch, so she's able to control her chair by, I suppose, with her mouth,
right,
and blowing in and out of a tube to help with moving around and stuff like that. But then they were able to set up for computer for email, so she's able to type email. So she's had we've been emailing for the last probably 6-7 years now. And after a game, she's one of the first. Ping will pop up on the phone, and it'll be Kath, and she'll tell me if I've had a bad game, and but she definitely tells me if I've had a good game. So it's always good to have her feedback. So she's one of the first ones that always, when you've had a bad game, because there'll be an email from Kath saying you need to get better.
Good on you, Kath. Shout outs to Kath. Yeah, it's been awesome how I've noticed you bringing attention to not only MS, but in the past also Parkinson's disease, and what else did you bring attention? Just mental health in general, which it's been beautiful to see. Just using the position you're in to bring attention to these issues in our society. So I really do hope that they can find a cure. It's a trip of a disease, huh?
It is. They're starting to find a lot of stuff now, which has been fantastic, and a lot of it's come from the funding, which is good. So it's just like MND and. Even Neil Danaher, who was a part of our football club in Melbourne, he's obviously been a driver behind MND, who he suffers from it, and I think he only got told he's got 2 years to live, but he's been going for 5 now, and he's raised over $45 million for MND. So I think they've made some breakthroughs, but for I suppose to bring awareness is all we want to do, and whatever disease it is, if there's no cure, if we can get some funds towards it, no matter what it is, if we can find a cure, it's a pretty big deal, especially with the people living with it, to have that hope. You know what I mean? Not just given I suppose, you've got 2 years to live,
Totally.
rather than just, we've got this cure now. Let's see how we go. So whatever it is, but yeah, MS being able to do that, and MND and all these other neurological diseases which are hitting people pretty hard. So
we've got lion's mane in our smoothie. There's been some interesting research. I don't know if you've heard of Dr. Paul Stamets. Have you heard of him?
No, but I got on the lion's mane about a year ago. Yeah. So it's a pretty interesting thing.
It is. He's been showing some pretty interesting feedback with these neurological diseases, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's disease, stacking lion's mane with psilocybin and niacin, in which it's showing really interesting effects.
It builds the myelin, doesn't it, back on the nerve? Yeah,
that's right.
Rebuild it back. So which is great.
Yeah, and then the niacin draws heat, you could say, to those areas that are damaged. So the combination apparently is really beneficial. And if you load up on the fish oils as well, or if you don't eat fish, the high omega-3 fatty acids from other things, that combination of the fatty acids, the lion's mane, the amino acids, it's potent. So get that into you.
Yeah, it's good. It's good.
Yeah. Now the foresight into life after footy. Do you give much attention to that, or you try to just stay present?
Trying to at the moment. Yeah, it's something you start thinking about, especially because we're all contract based. So whether you sign a 1 year contract or a 4 year contract, at some point during that contract, you've got to start thinking, oh, well, this could be it. This could be the end of it. So I'm lucky enough. I've got this year and next year, so I've got a couple of years to I suppose to think. I've been thinking the last few years on but it's hard trying to find something that I want to get into and I suppose find that passion in something because you're so focused on football. But yeah, look, we're lucky enough with our club. West Coast is a massive brand in obviously the WA community, and have a lot of contacts and the network's pretty big. So our CEO is pretty good in terms of, find out what industry you want to be involved with, and then we can try and connect you with guys just to see whether you like it. So a lot of guys do work experience and things like that. We've got Jamie Cripps and Liam Duggan who want to work outside, and most of them come from the country as well. Jamie's from a farm, and so they like getting out, I suppose, in the fields. And so they've been able to do some stuff with Landmark, and which is, so they go around to rural towns and understand, I suppose, grain and the pricing of grain, and I suppose how farmers grow crops and all that stuff. And so which is pretty cool. And then you got guys who love business, who go do work experience in either property development or whatever it is with the contacts. So for me, it's I've been trying to find what that purpose. Probably purpose is something to, because you just don't want to get in a job and just do it for no reason. It's trying to find purpose,
especially if you're an adrenaline junkie.
Yeah, I know.
Would you say you are?
I think, when I look back, I think I am.
Okay.
Yeah, but if you asked me that before I had that interview with Butts, I probably would have said, no way. No, I'm pretty chilled. But, but I think I am. So the business side of stuff, I'll probably do a bit of study this year, just to try and get some stuff done. So I had to sit my stat test about 2 months ago. I hadn't studied or done an essay since school, which was 15 years ago now. So that was probably more nerve-wracking than the grand final last year. So I had to do 2 essays. So I did my multi-choice last year, and that was all right. But I had to write 2 essays. I hadn't written an essay in 15 years. So the week leading into that Friday essay test is an hour. Got to write to it. It was the most nerve-wracking thing I've ever had, man. Now I can't. Like, people go, "Oh, how are you grand final?" It's grand final was nothing.
Oh,
I don't
shit!
Care.
Really?
Run out in front of 100,000 people. I don't care. Sit there for an hour and write 2 essays. I was like flipping out,
sweating and flipping.
Yeah.
Wow.
I'm trying to write essays every night.
Good on you, man.
My wife's reading them. She's going, I don't think you should put that in. Like, I'm going, oh no. So
you're still working on the essay?
No, I passed.
Okay.
I passed.
Yes. Put it there. Good work. That's
So,
great.
Yeah, which was good. So I can get into uni now.
Yay. Congratulations,
yeah.
man. That's huge. That's great.
So, which is cool. So I'll try and study some business, just some basic around business, but trying to align myself with a few industries that, I did some stuff with Australian Wildlife Foundation. So Alex Fleming, who was the CEO back then, just even sitting in and talking about what they do. And they were doing a fair bit of stuff where they were taking cattle ranches or fields and just revegetating and bringing back the natural, I suppose, flora and fauna, which was something that was pretty cool. I kind of like that, the idea of being outdoors and being able to do that. And then I do some stuff with the Loop & Co., which is obviously a food product. And I suppose the whole basis behind them is pretty cool because I come from a farming town, and lupin is something that's grown just to help pump up the sheep and get them fat because it's a high protein, I suppose, grain, not grain, a bean, but it's not really edible it is edible now, but people just think it's sheep feed. Loop & Co. have been able to bring, I suppose, this concept of it is a superfood. It's high in protein, it's low in carb, it's got a lot of benefits for it. So they've been able to flake it. You can crumb it with fish, you can crumb it with whatever, and you can make biscuits. You can do all these things. And his idea, he's a farmer, and he really wants the idea of farmers put in canola, which is just a generic seed, just will grow anywhere, and use a lot of chemicals to get it going. But it's something that helps them just make a bit of money to cover if they lose on other stuff. And lupins actually, when they grow, they help, I suppose, with the soil. So a lot of them will plant weed and then they'll put lupins in and they'll help get the soil back so they can put the weed back in.
Cool.
Whereas the canola kind of affects the soils and stuff like that. So he wants lupin to be the canola, which is the farmers plant it because they can feed their sheep, but then they can also sell it at a higher price and make some good money from it, which is then helping the land as well. So
good to know.
It's a little,
because we eat a bit of lupin bread and stuff like that. That's good to know.
Yeah. So so that concept is pretty cool. And then I suppose him bringing that product, I suppose, to the market, to the world, is something that's they're in their early stages of it, but they're making some really good ground. So I'm doing a little bit of stuff with them, which would be pretty cool. So, but I suppose just being in contact with people in business or industries like that, hopefully can then flow into a job one day. Because I'd just love to work under these people and learn, and there's all aspects. There's business, there's growing it, there's market, there's all those little things. But they have a bit of purpose and substance behind what they're doing, which is probably the main thing.
That's great.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, I hope you've got many seasons ahead anyway before all that happens. But can you see yourself getting back up north, or?
I don't know. We the olds and that would probably a shadow that we bought down in Freo because that probably means that we won't come back now. Right. But we talked about going home, but no, we love it in Perth. I think we love it down this way, and all our families in Geraldton, so it would be a lot easier being back there, but. Yeah, don't know. We might end up back there. A lot of people always flock back to the nest, don't they? Just because they're closer to family and friends. So, but my sisters are down here. Lauren's, my wife's got her brothers and that down here. My brother down here as well. So we've got a bit of family. So it'd be interesting to see what does eventuate. But I think most work opportunities will probably be in Perth. But my wife's an artist, so she can paint anywhere, which is pretty
I had
cool.
a look at her Instagram feed and beautiful art. Really cool. Huh?
Yeah, she's really, I suppose, found her unique style, which she loves doing. And I suppose with having kids and motherhood, she's really passionate about that, and it flows onto her work with.
What's the feed again? Just for listeners, they can have a quick look.
Lauren Elise in colour, is hers. So she's been doing portraits for people and families, and which has been great because it's a personal little gift, I suppose, and she loves drawing, I suppose, those special moments that we all capture on our cameras with our kids, or not only that, but weddings and just special moments in, I suppose, life that we capture on the phone. She's able to bring to life with her own unique style on a canvas, which is pretty cool.
Very cool. Well, we'll wrap this up gradually, but I'm so glad you got over here from Carlton those years ago. Are you? Let's just bring a bit of attention to that actually before we wrap it up, because I know you had resistance to it, didn't you? It was a tough move at first, wasn't it?
It was. I suppose back then I wanted to be a one club player, and I, the thought of moving to another club, I suppose it's like being a kid moving to another school. You've got all your mates there. You don't want to leave, and a lot of the talk, I suppose, prior to that week was my name was getting thrown up a bit with obviously Jody wanting to go back to Carlton, but the club were pretty good. They said, no, we're going to keep you. We don't get this deal done. I was contracted, so it was either yes or no from me, so it wasn't like they could just ship me out or whatever, but they did have the best player in the competition wanting to come to them, so they were pretty keen to get a deal done. So yeah, the week was pretty hectic. I suppose I was actually up north on a fishing trip with a mate up at Halfway, which is he's got a shack up there. There's no power or nothing, and back then not much, I suppose, phone coverage. So it was Telstra with a satellite phone, and so every 2 hours I had to stand on top of the shack and see if it pinged, just as if the manager called. And we went through Friday, Saturday, but Sunday morning, the phone went off, said, "Oh, you need to come down to John Warside wants to call you." And they want to meet you on Tuesday. So went back to Mum's house in Gero, and Woosh called me and just introduced himself and said, "Oh, I want you to come down Tuesday." And I was like, "Oh, I'm not coming. So I'm not coming down, Woosh. I'm going to stay at Carlton. There's no point. Don't book me a flight because I'm not going to get on it." That was probably the last time I ever said no to John Worsfold. So I learnt that pretty quick, but he was able to persuade me to come down, which I'm so glad he did. And we went through the club and I suppose got a comparison from the two, and West Coast in terms of the positioning they were in and the resources that they put towards development was something that was, well above the benchmark. And Carlton at the time, in terms of facilities, we didn't have much money. There was a bit of money going to come in through Dickie Pratt, who was going to build this new facility for everyone. But it was probably by the end of that week, you had to weigh up the pros and cons. And a lot of the pros were, my family's a lot closer. Mum's only 4 hours up the road now rather than a 4 hour drive plus a plane trip. My little sisters, my youngest ones were, I think they were 9 and 10 at the time. So being able to see them grow up was probably something that, really wanted me to come back. And then friends and family is probably the big one. All my mates were either in Perth or they were studying or working or whatever it was. So, it was by the end of the week we decided to come, and it was pretty exciting. So to be able to come to West Coast, they were winning a few. They just won the grand final 2 years before, lost in a prelim the year before, so I'd been winning a lot of games, pretty successful. We won a wooden spoon at Carlton. I was thinking, oh, beautiful, we'll win some games. And 2 years later at West Coast, we won the wooden spoon. So I thought I was down the bad luck charm because we weren't winning too many games.
Shit.
But we were going through a whole culture change process. It was after, I suppose, Cuzzy got arrested, and it was actually the week. So I said yes, so we were all pretty pumped that weekend. And then I think it was like the Wednesday after, Cuzzy got arrested, and Mum was going, "Where are you going? What are you doing?" So coming into a club at that time, Glassy took over as captain. Woosh just wanted this full culture change. So a lot of the focus early on when I first started was purely off-field. It was getting ourselves right off-field as men in society, as individuals, and it took away from what we need to do on the field. We were training, but we weren't really focusing on that because a lot of stuff was off field. So that really, I suppose, hit us early on. We, 08, 09, and then 010 we finished last. But I suppose by then everyone was in a really good position on to focus on footy, and we were able to make a prelim the year after. So we saw this big spike going, and we finished fourth, and thinking, how good's this? And but I have no doubt that helped shape me, I suppose, and a lot of us older players now, I suppose, with the culture that we've got now. So, Woosh, Glassy and the senior players did a massive job of, I suppose, turning it around back then, and I suppose being able to be the club we are today. So pretty successful, which is great.
Thanks for sharing, man. Well, it's been awesome to witness, and great to have you here. Great to spend time with you.
Thank you.
And good luck for the season ahead and family life and everything.
Yeah.
Keep rocking it.
Oh, thanks, man.
And it's been an honour.
Cheers.
Really good to hang.
Thanks, bro.
Put it there.